Some men are at the beach, receiving body massages from some ladies. Another man who is by himself receives a call from Mr. Park, who is in his office. He says he's calling about the bill Mr. Park submitted to the National Assembly. The man says Mr. Park is putting him in a bad position. He says they'll have a long talk in the prosecutor's office soon. He cuts the call. The men receiving body massages talk about a big push in next week's news edition. They hope to expose the dark side of the ruling party's leader, Park Mujin. Suddenly there's a kind of whirlwind that wipes out the three men. Park Mujin's secretary brings news to him. He asks for progress, and she reports that negotiations with the relevant agencies are complete, and the information will be released to the media in 2 hours. She says everything is going as planned. Park Mujin says they should begin, because they don't have much time. The man has a cross symbol on his palm. Someone in a helicopter flies over an island and sees the cross symbol on it. He wonders what it is. Mori wakes up from a dream, where his grandfather encourages him to go to school and make new friends when he is younger. Mor sits up, stares at his picture with his grandfather, and turns back into the bed. He snaps back awake, looks at the clock, and realizes that he's late. Moments later, he rides out of his compound on his bicycle as fast as he can. When he almost hits an old woman and her cat, he swerves to the side and avoids her. He rides into the city. On the billboard, news about the beginning of the competition across schools is announced. The city preliminaries are to be held at Korg Arena. Some boys on a bus are jealous that they have to stream the competition. Some girls in a restaurant are talking about the hottie in Jeolla, while some people get front row tickets to watch the competition live. A shop owner is thanking one of his workers for coming to work a night before the prelims of the competition. The worker dismisses it by saying that it's his job. He leaves and throws out the trash. He counts his money and concludes that he needs more shifts. Some men are sitting by the road, wondering why they didn't qualify for the competition. One of them says that he wants to know the criteria that were used, because while there are some regulars in the game, there are also names that he has never heard before. They are still contemplating when a young girl walks towards them, saying that she seems to be lost and needs direction to the arena. The men begin to argue amongst themselves about the right way. The girl looks at the muscle of the man who spoke earlier and says that she loves it. The men remove their shirts to flex their muscles. Mori is tired but still moving on his bicycle. He hopes to make it in time and also hopes that there'll be a food stall at the arena. He's thinking about food when he's almost hit by a man on his bike. He shouts back at the man, telling him to watch his front. He continues his journey and sees a woman crying for her belongings. He sees into the struggles of the woman. Mori chases the thief. The thief doesn't pull over as Mori asks him to. The chase gets hotter and hotter. They pass by a YouTuber who is shooting a live video of himself rapping. His viewers are wowed by the sight of the chase. Mori chases the thief to the place where the young girl is admiring the muscles of those men. Before he can stop himself, his bicycle hits her in the face and kicks her off the road, breaking her glasses. Mori apologizes in a hurry and continues chasing the thief, but the young girl can't take it. She catches Mori and beats him. Mori explains that he's chasing a thief. He also mentions the situation of the old woman who owns the purse. The girl decides to join Mori to catch the thief. Mori is riding his bicycle with the girl on top. When they see the thief ahead of them, the girl says they should teach him a lesson. The worker from the shop watches them pass by. He looks away and into his phone, where the rapper who was recording a live video earlier was with the grandma whose purse was stolen. He was using her situation to curate his new music. The worker goes his own way. Mori and the girl are still chasing the thief. Each time they get close enough to him, he escapes from their grasp. At some point, he sprays money as a distraction. The young girl jumps over the bike to attack him directly, but her face is stuck in a billboard. The thief thinks he has escaped, but when he turns to the front, the worker punches him in the face, and he falls into a van. Mori and the girl are shocked by what they see. Mori, the worker, and the girl finally make it to the arena together. The preliminaries are about to start. The girl says Mori should pay her back for her glasses later, since she can't see. The worker says she should pay the bill to the thief instead. Mori introduces himself to the worker as Jin Mori. The worker's name is Han Dawi. The girl is Mira. The moderator reads the rules of the game. The fighters are brought to the stage. The moderator explains a few things to them: the bracelet they wear and the nanomachines injected into them. The fight begins. They begin to attack people with levels lower than them in the general fight. Mori, Mira, and Dawi show their turf. Mori looks toward the direction of where the organizers are, although he can't see them directly. He remembers that he gets a rematch with a blonde there if he beats those in the arena at that time. A latecomer joins the fight and starts taking out the fighters. Mira attacks him, but he finds her cute and plays with her instead. Mori decides to take over but allows himself to get attacked. Dawi watches what is going on and how the latecomer is moving. Mori jumps in the air to attack him, The latecomer jumps too. The security service is surprised to see the island in the shape of a palm with the cross symbol. Someone says it may be Charyeok. They are still trying to figure it out when an unknown person enters the building. When he's stopped by some agents, he introduces himself as part Mujin. The tournament is on a break and the vitals of everyone left are checked. In the office of the organizers, one of them asks after Mujin. His secretary responds, saying Mujin is not back yet. The man says Mujin is lucky to have gone on an overseas trip on the government's dime. He says Mujin will get to see interesting things. He faces the game and says that he has seen interesting things too, and he can't wait to see how the game will unfold. Mira asks Mori to stop dancing around her just because their houses are along the same route. Mori asks why she attacked him earlier. She stopped the fight between Mori and the latecomer. Mira says she did, and because she couldn't see. She looks back and asks Dawi why he's following her too. He says that his house is also along that route. She's passed. Dawi looks at his bracelet and figures out that the nanomachines injected in them heal them. On the journey back home, Mori asks Dawi and Mira why they decided to join the competition. Mori says he did because he wants to become stronger and fight all sorts of people. Dawi says he's doing it because he wants money. Mira wants to receive her family's dojo sword. Mori asks why she let something precious get taken and shows it to her in his hand. She tries to get it back from him, but it slips out of Mori's hand into the river. He says he'll get it back, and she slaps him before he finishes his sentence. She asks him to leave. Mira gets into the water and searches for the sword herself. She remembers her father's instruction to her, saying that she should protect the sword and find a suitable successor. She says she has dedicated her life to it since then. Mori comes and asks if he can join her. She permits him, and later, apologizes for slapping him. Dawi shows up with bright lights from his shop to help them. The next day, the tournament continues. The fighters and crowd are in the arena, waiting for the game to commence. The moderator announces that the winner will be granted permission to go to the national competition. He introduces Go Gamdo, the practitioner of Tai Chi, first. In the waiting room, some fighters are training. Dawi is listening to music and reading a paper, and Mori is sleeping. The latecomer comes to meet him and says he'll beat him out there. Mori doesn't offer any reply from his sleep. Annoyed, the latecomer wants to beat Mori, but Gamdo stops him and says he should leave Mori alone because they are not in the ring yet. The latecomer kicks Gambo, but Mori catches him before he falls and warns him not to lose his guard. The first match is between Yu Mira and Han Dae-chul. Mira wins the match easily. The next match is between Jin Mori and the Beast. Mori takes him down after 3 punches. Ma Mission and Woo Jongjin face each other next. Mission wins. Sung-chul wins the next match against his opponent. The next match is between Han Daewi and Yes Man. No time is wasted, as Daewi takes out Yes Man and wins. Mori, who is watching from inside, declares his desire to fight Mira and Dawi. Mori also wonders when the latecomer gets to fight. Gamdo thanks Mori for helping him earlier. It's time for Gamdo's battle against Kang Manseok, the latecomer. The moderator reads the rules to the competitors in the ring. The match begins, and Gamdo takes the upper hand. He's able to send Manseok off the stage. Mori thinks he's trying. Manseok returns in the nick of time. However, when the match resumes, Manseok begins to have the upper hand. Mira noticed that he removed his right arm from the restraint to block. He beats Gamdo with a style that wows the ground. Mujin's secretary explains that it's northern-style taekwondo, a martial art devised for survival during the war. Gamdo tries one more attack, but Manseok blocks it. Manseok goes to Gamdo and asks him to beg for forgiveness. Gamdo says he'll never beg someone like him. Manseok slaps him across the face multiple times. Manseok flashes back to a day when he desperately begged someone to forgive him. He beats Gamdo again and asks him to beg for his life. Gamdo refuses. When Gamdo looks unconscious, Manseok disturbs him and reminds him that he said Manseok would regret it if he didn't remove both of his arm restraints. Manseok removes the other arm restraint and tries to break off both of Gamdo's arms. The referee asks Gamdo if he gives up. Manseok says he won't let him. Mori enters the ring and stops Manseok, saying that he hates Manseok's taekwondo style. He kicks Manseok a second time, causing more damage. Gamdo leaves the ring. The moderator and a few others hold Mori hostage for interfering in a match because it is a breach of the rules. Manseok returns to the stage without his heavy pants on. When he tries to attack again, Mujin's secretary smiles at him, and suddenly he remembers the past. Someone tormented him, saying that someone like him couldn't use Charyeok. He shouts that he's not the same person he used to be in the past, and launches another attack. A black presence feels the atmosphere, and the crowd thinks they should run. Mori charges at Manseok and takes him down. Mori, however, falls to the ground too. Park Mujin is back. Park Mujin handles the microphone and introduces himself to the crowd as the head of the tournament administration. He says Mori has defied the laws and his punishment will be communicated. However, the match continues as planned. The crowd cheers Mori as he leaves with the men in suits. Mira and Dawi come to encourage him too. In the tournament headquarters, the situation reports that Go Gamdo is physically and mentally drained, and since he can't continue the tournament that way, he is eliminated. Kang Manseok can't continue fighting anymore, They agreed that 2 fighters were out because of Jin Mori. Mujin's secretary advises that they disqualify Mori. According to the regulations of the tournament, Mujin finds out that Mori is Taejin's grandson. The tournament continues and Mira and Misaon face each other in the 9th battle. Misaon tells Mira to change her weapon because a wooden sword won't work on her. The fight begins, and Misaon holds the upper hand. After Misaon brings down Mira for the first time, the moderator says that Misaon is a pro wrestling champion. Mira gets up. She joined the tournament from America because they said they'd grant her wish if she won. She wishes for men. Misaon does a finishing attack that sends Mira's sword spiraling away. Mira still doesn't give up on the fight. She finishes Misaon off, swordless. Mori and Dawi are happy that she wins. Mori still can't wait to fight her. Mujin and one of his men enter the room where Mori is kept. Mujin tells Mori that his punishment has been decided. If he can beat the man with Mujin, he'll be reinstated into the tournament. Mori says he wants to fight the blonde commissioner instead. He whines like a baby until the man says that he's stronger than the blonde. He punches Mori in the face. He says he was made a commissioner because he's stronger than the participants. Mori is excited. Mujin says the fight will happen on the stage the next day. Mira asks Dawi if he knows what will become of Mori. Dawi says they mentioned punishment and he hopes they haven't disqualified him. Mira is annoyed that he meddled in another person's match. Dawi says that Mori's strength wasn't ordinary. Mori shows up in the middle of their discussion and offers them food. They refuse. He says that he got the food for free. Park Mujin gave him the fruits and said it would help him restore the energy for the match the next day. Dawi asks what match that is, and Mori says he'll be fighting a commissioner and he'll be allowed back in the tournament if he wins. Mira asks if the commissioners are strong. Mori says they are, but he'll still win. Mira and Dawi tell him to be careful. Mira says it's his fault for meddling in someone else's battle in the first place. Mori says there's a saying in the family, do what you want. He says his grandfather told him so. Mujin's secretary asks why he brought out the fruits after Elder Bongchim said it was too soon for them. She wonders what will happen when an ordinary human eats them. Mori gets home and takes a bite of the fruit in his hands. Mujin tells the lady that he did it to find out if Mori is the real deal or not. Mori vomits blood and faints when he's about to sleep later at night. Dawi visits his friend in the hospital. He asks how the treatment is going. His friend says he wants to try a new medication. He was told it would work better than the previous ones. It is also more expensive. He sighs. He says that his sister has taken another job and he knows that Dawi has taken another job too. Dawi changes the topic by saying he met a weird guy who reminds him of his friend. His friend asks if that means he's calling him weird. Dawi says yes. The two of them get into a fight for fun. Some boys bully Dawi in his place of work and mock his friend Seungtae. They heard that he'll die soon. Dawi keeps his cool and doesn't fight back. The 12th match of the tournament between Han Dawi and Baek Seungchul begins. Seungchul predicts Dawi's methods and says that Dawi shouldn't be surprised. Seungchul says that the book in his hands contains all sorts of information, including how to defeat Dawi. At the beginning of the match, Seungchul takes down Dawi by predicting his karate moves. Seungchul says he studied all the moves in the past and came up with a theory that with mastery of both knowledge and violence, one will never lose. He entered the tournament to prove that his theory was correct. Dawi manages to learn Seungchul's timing and avoid his attacks. When Seungchul tries to finish off, he slips and falls. But instead of attacking, Dawi offers a hand to help. Seungchul asks why and Dawi says that only a coward attacks in such a situation. Seungchul slaps his hand away, gets up, and calls Dawi strange. He attacks Dawi with a skill that stabs 12 times simultaneously. He declares himself as the winner to Dawi, saying he can't stand up again. Dawi remembers his friend in the hospital, who once said that all of life was battle, and one had to keep fighting to stay alive. Dawi stands up, saying he can't afford to lose. Seungchul is ready to attack him again, with 72 spears this time. But Dawi defends himself and poses to fight. He finally brings down Seungchul after 3 attacks and consistent fighting. Mira is excited to see him win. One of the commissioners explains that Dawi cancelled out his opponent with the first move, knocked him off balance with the second, and blew open his defense with the third. The moderator announces Dawi as the winner and says that concludes all the matches for that day. He says everyone will now see a verdict handed down for Jin Mori. Jin Mori wakes up in his room. Mori's opponent is waiting in the ring. It's way past the starting time, and Mori is yet to arrive. They are wondering why. Mira is worried. When they announce the arrival of Mori, Mujin smiles where he is seated. Mori runs into the ring, panting. Mira is happy to see him. The moderator explains the rules and says that if Mori manages to bring down the commissioner once, he wins, since it's a handicap match. The match begins, but Mori knocks down the commissioner when he takes off his glasses and pushes him down. Everyone is shocked for a while. The moderator says that concludes the match, but the crowd complains. The commissioner stands to his feet. Mori kicks him, and he falls again. Mori wonders why he feels hot. The commissioner stands up again. He brought forth a beast from his breath. Mori doesn't understand what's going on. The beast disappears, and Mori sees that some other commissioners are holding his opponent. Mujin walks onto the stage and tells Mori's opponent that his pay is cut for 3 months. Mujin announces Mori as the winner. Mori says he's hungry. Mujin thinks to himself that Mori is Taejin's tiger cub, and they should never let him get away. Mori falls asleep there. The nurses in charge of the GOH channel say that it's the time everyone has been waiting for, because the competition is down to the top 4. The top full-contact karate practitioner, Han Dawi, the successor of the Moonlight Sword style, the Milky White Mira, and master of enigmatic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Bayun Jaehi, the renewal Taekwondo user with phantasmagoric leg moves, Jin Mori. The next match is between Mira and Han Dawi. Mira tells Dawi she'll win because the Moonlight Sword style is powerful. Dawi says she should go easy on him. Mori says he'll win too. He says he'll see them in the final. He's sad that he can only fight one of them. He asks both of them to win. They leave him behind with no response and continue to walk ahead. Someone in a car sees Mira and rushes to pack beside them. He parks beside them, alights from the car, falls on one knee in front of Mira, and asks her to marry him. Mira's cousin asks her what she'll wear for the wedding. She asks her to pick a pink gown because it is beautiful. She also asks who Mira will invite to the reception. Mira says she's still in school. Hence, it's no big deal. Her cousin asks about the honeymoon and exclaims that she can't believe Mira is getting married to Seong Jin, the strongest and most gorgeous martial artist in existence, the businessman who represents the country's sports scene. Mira remembers Seong Jin bringing her flowers and begging her to become his bride because he couldn't find a better partner or person made for that position. He says that he learned about the Moonlight Sword style and he can't believe that such a gem is hidden. He says he'll bring Mira and the sword style into the world if she agrees to marry him. He asks Mira to walk into the future with him. Mira remembers when her father died and everyone abandoned her. She thinks about how she grew up to her current position. She decides she's the one who will decide the future of Moonlight Sword since she's its successor. Mira's uncle comes to meet Seong Jin and asks why he wants to marry Mira. Seong Jin says Mira is a diamond in the rough, as well as the Moonlight Sword. He says he has a plan to make the sword style preeminent around the globe. He says it'll have as many practitioners as karate and judo, and could even become an Olympic event. He whispers into her uncle's ears that he'll make it better than their family could. He also promises to make Mira and all of them happy. Mori is in a restaurant, trying to decide which burger to eat. Many people are waiting behind him to place their orders. Some female high schoolers mention Seong Jin's marriage and the fact that he's getting married to Mira. Mori visits Mira and asks if she's truly getting married. Mira asks how he found the address to her house. He asks why she's getting married and dropping out of the tournament. She tries to shut him out, but he holds the door. He asks if Seong Jin is more important to her than the Moonlight Sword and why she's abandoning her dream to save the sword. She says she's getting married to save the sword. Mori asks why she isn't marrying, because she loves him. She successfully shuts Mori out of her house. Her cousin comes and asks who it is. Mira says it was no one. Mori calls Dawi, who is on his way to deliver noodles to a customer. Dawi says that they shouldn't meddle in someone else's life. Mori says that Mira doesn't look happy and is probably getting decided. He thinks they should do something about it, but Dawi doesn't want to interfere in someone else's matter. It's Mira's wedding day. She's dressed in white and has her makeup done. Sumi, her cousin, checks on her and sees that everything is complete. Sumi is excited. Mira's uncle is sad as he thinks about what type of lady Mira is. Mira's uncle begs Seong Jin to call off the wedding. He says she thinks she made the decision as an adult, but she's just a child. Mira overhears and tells her uncle not to worry. She tells Seong Jin she's choosing him because he'll make the Moonlight Sword popular. He says she can use him as he wants. Sumi now understands and is worried. Sumi is crying about how she didn't understand. Mori is beside her, and then he also says that he finally understands Mira's situation. Sumi says she just wants Mira to be happy. Mori agrees. Mori and Sumi want to enter the wedding venue, but are stopped by Seong Jin's bodyguards because they do not have invitations. Mori tries again by saying he's Mira's friend. They refuse. When he tries to fight his way in, they threaten to remove him by force. The wedding is ongoing. Seong Jin flashes back to when he received the order from the priest as a devotee to get a holy sword that can rule the supreme being and a hand that can draw that power. Mira is his answer. The men are beating Mori because he can't use his taekwondo power on them. Dawi shows up and takes them down with one punch. They enter the venue and ask Mira what she's doing dressed like that in that hall, because it doesn't fit her. Seong Jin asks what they are doing there. He sees that his security guards are down and asks if Mori and Dawi did it. Seong Jin says he'll have to take them down himself. Dawi faces Seong Jin and asks Mori to get Mira. When Mori gets to Mira, She doesn't look at him. She says she didn't invite him. Mori asks if she's ready to give up just like that. He asks if the moonlight sword means nothing to her. He says a dream means nothing if you don't grab it with your hands. She fights Mori and says that he knows nothing. Her uncle gets in the way of the punches that she throws and asks her to stop because even her father wouldn't want this. Sumi agrees too. Mori says it is not hard. He tells her to simply do what she wants. Mira tells Seongjin she can't continue with the marriage. She says she'll protect the world in her way. Seongjin laughs and tells her to stop fooling herself because all he wants is the moonlight sword and its successor. He brings forth a beast. Dawi thinks the power is similar to what the commissioner displayed in his fight with Mori. Seongjin attacks the crowd and Mira takes Seongjin down with one attack. Seongjin runs away with the sword. Mira tells Mori and Dawi to let him have it because her father's spirit lives on in her. She locks arms with both guys and walks away. Sumi is happy that Mira is finally smiling. Dawi's friend is unconscious and in an emergency. The boys come to disturb Dawi at his place of work and bully him again. This time, Dawi doesn't hold back. He beats them all. The next day, the fight between Mira and Dawi occurs. Mori gets there late, but is also surprised to see Dawi beating up Mira like she means nothing to him. Dawi is even stopped by the referee. Mori waits for Dawi after the fight, but all Dawi says is, "See you at the finals." Dawi and Sungtae, his friend, always engaged in fights for no reason. Sungtae laughed after those fights, but he was already sick. Dawi wonders why he fought then. The second semifinal between Mori and Jae-hee commences. Jae-hee says he saw the skill that Mori used to defeat Mansok, and it won't work on him. However, Mori doesn't even give Jae-hee any space before he knocks him down and emerges as the winner of the match. The moderator says that Mori displayed his devastating strength, hence, the final is between Han Dawi and Jin Mori. Mori visits Mira in her ward. She says she's getting better, and she got yelled at for not coming to the hospital sooner. She didn't know that they were treating injuries sustained outside the battle too. She tells Mori not to get strange ideas by overthinking. She got beaten by Dawi because she is weaker than him. Mori says she got hurt. Mira says that's because she's not strong enough. Mori says he never thought Dawi would fight like that. Mira says that's a part of who he is, and they also don't know how he ended up that way. Dawi visits Sungtae in the hospital. The nurse says that his condition has not changed, but he woke up earlier that day and wanted to see Dawi. Dawi bends and touches the glass that houses Sungtae. He walks out of the hospital. It's time for the final of the sole preliminaries of the tournament. Mori enters the stage first, followed by Dawi. Mujin smirks in his position and wonders if the tiger cub in Mori will awaken. The battle begins. The fight is closely at a tie with neither yielding to the other. Mujin's secretary and another commissioner say that they are evenly matched. One says that there is a slight difference between them, and the more the battle is dragged, one of them will be at a disadvantage, and he knows himself. The battle between Dawi and Mori continues. Dawi punches Mori in his stomach, reminding him of Mira's situation. Mori spits blood, rises to his feet, and runs towards Dawi, saying he'll pay for what he did to their friend. Mori uses the skill he used on Mansok the other day, and this causes Dawi to fall. Mori extends his hands to him and asks him to get up. When Dawi takes Mori's hands, he says that he has never considered them as his friends. He attacks Mori at that moment. Sumi and Mira's uncle come to the hospital to help Mira get discharged. Sumi carries Mira's belongings, although Mira tells her that she shouldn't. Her uncle says he'll finish her process of discharging. Sumi and Mira walk out of the hospital. On the way out, however, Mira's bracelet beeps, and she wonders if there is someone else injected with nanomachines receiving treatment within the hospital. She finds herself in the ICU. Mira enters the ICU and sees some of the commissioners. She sees a girl crying over Sungtae, who is covered with a white cloth. Back at the tournament, Dawi fights Mori without giving him the space to retaliate or recover. Dawi thinks back to why he joined the tournament and his discussion with Mujin. When he wins, he wants to treat Sungtae with nanomachine technology. Dawi says it'll be too late for Sungtae by the time he wins. Mujin agrees to make a contract with him. If he wins the sole preliminaries, Dawi takes down Mori. The referee begins the countdown for 10 seconds. At that moment, Mujin secretly informs Dawi that his friend has taken his last breath. Mori stands up again in the nick of time. Just before the countdown ends, Dawi remembers how he used to be a fighter in school, beating all the high schoolers. He remembers the days when he was trapped in the middle of many boys with clubs in their hands, but was saved by Sungtae. Sungtae is happy that he made the boys cry in the end. He tells Dawi that Dawi's buddies will be amazed. Dawi says they are not his buddies because they'll go away once things atop going their way. Hence, he uses them when it's convenient for him too. Sungtae tells him to have some faith in them, because the more you trust someone, the more they trust you too. Dawi falls to the ground in the middle of the match. A countdown is done, but he stands up soon, and the final match resumes. Dawi recalls all that Mujin told him about his friend, and that their contract is null. Mujin's secretary asks him why he told Dawi when the match wasn't over. Mujin says that when a man is at his lowest, you see who he truly is. The audience notices that Dawi has put down his defenses and is worried. They root for him. Dawi remembers his words to Mori and also remembers Sungtae's words for him to have faith. He feels like an idiot. Mira's words come then, asking him to fight because he was at least 200 times stronger when he fought with her. She gives him a message from his friend. He asks Mira to hold on to the letter, and the match resumes. Mori is glad to see Dawi resume with strength. Dawi recalls Sungtae's letter, telling him to fight for himself and not for him anymore because he was happy. Dawi and Mori finally enjoy their fight. Mori thinks Dawi is the best. He uses a final attack, Jin Mori original, and takes Dawi down. Mujin thinks they have 2 tiger cubs. Mori wins the preliminaries. Mori calls Dawi his friend. Dawi accepts his hand. The crowd cheers. Mira joins them as they walk off the stage. Someone thinks Seoul's boring if that's all they've got. The devotees ask Jin Taejin to join them because there is a way those with powers are supposed to live. Taejin says he always told his grandson something. Do what you want. Mori gets back home, falls on the bed, and looks at his grandfather's picture. He asks his grandpa what he's doing. Heel and Sai, the nurses in charge of the Big Bang channel for GOH, have something special. They have Commissioners Q and O with them. The regional preliminaries of GOH are over, and the national tournament is in 2 weeks. Heel asks how the national tournament will go, and Commissioner O explains that it'll be a team tournament because the top 3 fighters from the prelims will fight together as a team. In Korg Arena, the 3rd place match between Mira and Jae-hee is ongoing. Mira wins easily. Mori cheers Mira from the crowd. Dawi looks away from him. Mira thinks he's an idiot. Mujin and the commissioners analyze all the matches they've had so far. Mujin thinks that someone in the preliminaries had the key, and the commissioners say that may be the reason for the change in the rules. Mujin thinks they have more tiger cubs than they imagined. He explains that once a fighter can convert their strongest emotion into their strength, it awakens the key. One of the commissioners mentions the matter of Seongjin's approach to Mira. He says that similar activity happened in Gangwon and Jeju. One of the commissioners says it's Knox. Another says those involved will be bolder with the commencement of the national tournament since they are after the same thing. Mujin says he has summoned the 6. Mori, Mira, and Dawi are waiting for the traffic light to turn green. Mori says he's glad that Mira gets to stay in the tournament and they can fight together. He wraps his arms around both their necks and says that they should fight together and win. Suddenly he realizes that if they fight together, he can't fight against them. He whines because he wants to battle against Mira and also Dawi. Mira asks why he wants to spar with them so badly. Mori says that when he fights with strong people, he gets stronger. Mira asks if that's all. Mori asks if there's any other reason. Dawi asks them to cross since the light is green. Mira asks what Mori will do when he gets stronger. He says if he wants something, he can just get it. But being stronger is cooler. Someone passes by Mori in the middle of the road, but when he looks back, he doesn't see them again. He keeps looking back as they walk away. The man who passed by Mori appears at Mujin's place, waiting for him outside. He's the 6. He asks why Mujin has called him here and punches him. Mujin disappears, and the real one appears. The old man greets Mujin and calls him his pupil. They enter the building together. The man says he has seen Taejin's grandson, and he'll take him as his pupil. He says he wonders what Taejin's reaction will be. Mujin says he's also here for Taejin. The devotees call a huge sword out of the sky upon Taejin. Mira is thinking about her situation in the shower. She's happy to still be in the tournament, but considering how strong her teammates are, she feels like an extra. Mira goes to the mall and meets with the moderator, announcer, Sim Bongsa. He commends her efforts and congratulates her for making it to the national tournament. Mira thinks he's blind. Bongs tells Mira that the real fight is just starting. He says that she's yet to draw the real strength of the moonlight sword style. Dawi visits Mujin. Mujin asks Dawi if he has any motivation left to fight. Dawi says that he has debts to pay. He recalls the letter Mira gave him from Sungtae. Mujin thinks Dawi now has the eyes of a man. Mujin says that he's happy as long as his participants are willing. Dawi says he has a question. He says that some strange powers are at work behind the scenes of the tournament, and he wants to know what it is. Mujin says it's Charyeok. Mori decides to train in preparation for the tournament, but it doesn't go as well as he proposed in his heart. A child's balloon hangs in the tree, and Mori gets it for him. He may have twisted his ankle in the process. The 6 pricks him with a needle from behind, causing him to dance. The 6 says that it's just a sprain. Mori doesn't feel the pain anymore. Mira and Bongsa are still discussing. Bingsa tells Mira not to focus on just getting stronger, because that way when she meets with someone stronger, she'll break easily. He tells her to put her emotions into her sword and not to hold back. He shows her something, and she's wowed. Bongsa confesses that the moonlight sword blinded him. Bongsa leaves with his family, but stops midway and asks his wife to go ahead with their child. The costume teddy bear faces him, and Bongsa calls him a member of Knox. The bear transforms into a human. Mujin tells Dawi that everyone they'll face from that moment will use Charyeok, borrowing powers from beings that transcend the understanding of the human world. Mujin says that Gok is all about borrowing powers from supreme beings and making them one's own. He asks how Dawi and his teammates will fight. Jagal fights with one of the opponents. Jangmi shows herself to her teammates. Jugok accepts his grandfather's blessings. The six, the great magician, Jean Jason, says he hopes that the game will be fair and a true test of strength. The other members are the Hulk, Seo Halyang, the Lone Shark, Kim Dushik, Divine Doctor, Mujin's teacher, Naha Bongchim, Rebirth, Kim Ungnyo, Tiger Cub, Park Mujin. Mira and Dawi get Mori from home. They look around his house and are surprised to see that he lives alone. He says that she used to live with his grandpa in the woods. He asks about Mira's shoulders and pokes it about 3 times. Dawi tells them about Charyeok. Mori says he doesn't know about supreme beings and all that. Dawi says they saw it themselves. Mira says it's true and it's not ordinary, but Mori says it doesn't matter how strong their opponents are, they'll win. It's time for the competition. Mira is worried because the announcer is not Mr. Sim. Simultaneously, the commissioners see the news of the death of Sim Bongsa. Mujin says that the Knox has entered their midst. The tournament begins, however, with the first match between North Chungcheong and Seoul. Oh wonders if Q is running late. A contestant has taken down Q, one of the strongest commissioners, and is overjoyed. Mujin says that GOH is about the contestants borrowing power from supreme beings and beats and making it theirs. The match will consist of 3 bouts, and the first team to have 2 victories will win. Mori says he'll take the first bout. Mira tells him to be careful because whoever it is may use Charyeok. Mori says they shouldn't worry because he has a new weapon of his own. The first bout is between Jin Mori and Na Gidong. Gidong says he's lucky he got paired with Mori. He says he'll end the battle quickly. Mori uses his new weapon by activating his pressure points. Bongchim, in the crowd, says that Mori learned that from him. He says Taejin's taekwondo doesn't exist anymore. Mori can't move. He hit the wrong pressure points. Gidong pounces on him and wins the bout easily. Mira and Dawi are disappointed. They carry him away. He apologizes for not sticking to taekwondo. Bongchim is disappointed. Gidong boasts of his win to his teammates. The second bout is between Han Dawi and Jin Pum Kwang. Mira tells Dawi to win because if he loses, they are out. Pum Kwang is 38 and the oldest in the tournament. Q wakes up after the contestant with him confesses that he killed Bongsa, his wife, and his kid. Q uses Charyeok to subdue him. The battle between Dawi and Pum Kwang is intense. Gidong gets worried when Dawi begins to beat Pum Kwang. Jangmi tells Gidong not to worry because Pum Kwang doesn't give up and he won't lose. She talks about how he didn't give up on the high school entrance exams. Jangmi remembers seeing Pum Kwang and Gidong as failures and promising herself to never be like them. Then, she was always losing sword fighting. Pum Kwang taught Jangmi not to give up too. She also taught Pum Kwang the sums he couldn't get. Hence, Jangmi is sure that Pum Kwang will never lose. Pum Kwang uses Charyeok. He says that he has a dream to help people who want to go to high school but can't. He plans to use the tournament to fulfill that dream. However, Dawi dodges Thor's hammer and finally wins the battle. Q is still fighting with the fellow. However, the fellow keeps regenerating because that's his Charyeok. Q says he doesn't care. 2 other people show up in the building. These people are Priest Exley and Priest Saturn. They call the guy in Q's house Drake. Q asks how those 2 can just enter a person's house with their shoes on. The priests ask Drake what he's doing in Q's house since they were the ones ordered to kill the commissioners. Drake says he wanted to do it since he was a member of Knox too. Q returns to attacking Drake, but the priests launch their Charyeoks and attack Q. O comes in time to rescue Q. She said that she noticed his limiter was off. She says the penalty is 3 months without pay, and in addition to his previous punishment, that made it half a year's worth of pay. The final bout between Jangmi and Yu Mira begins. The team that wins the final bout proceeds to the second round. Jangmi thinks within herself that her sword skills are no match for Mira's, but she can't afford to lose the match. Jangmi brings forth her Charyeok bastard. Q and O are still battling with the priests in Q's house. They are all using their Charyeok powers. Q finishes off Priest Saturn. The tournament gets hotter with Jangmi using her Charyeok to attack Mira. Mori eats Dawi's food, and Dawi tells him not to do that. A nurse asks why they are not worried about their friend. The 2 boys say that she's fine, and if they worry about her, she'll rub it in their faces later. Mira remembers the words of Bongsa to her the other day, and uses what he taught her to finally take down Jangmi. Mira wins the bout. Q and O hold out very well, and injure both priests, almost killing them, but they get away. Q is disappointed. Drake gets up, however, and explodes. Mira and Dawi High fives. Mori jumps, congratulating Mira. She tells him to stop because he's embarrassing her. Jungmi wakes up and apologizes to her teammates for losing. Poom Kwang says it's okay, as long as she doesn't give up, and is ready to try again and again. Q and O are in an ambulance. They say that Knox is truly on the move. Mujin's secretary gives Mujin the report she heard from O about the attack on Q. Mujin says that there is a traitor among them. She also shows Mujin a picture of something that belongs to Taejin. She thinks Taejin has been taken somewhere. The next match is between South Gyeongsang and North Jola. The first bout is between Jagal and Jeon Jugok. Jagal shows no mercy as he beats Jugok and his female servant too. When Mira sees the violence, she stops Mori from interfering, but Dawi already interferes. The announcer stops them from further interference. He says that that will only bring consequences for them both. Jugok stands up to fight. He sends lightning to Jagal, but Jagal walks out of it unscathed. Jagal says that it's not good enough. He activates his Charyeok and defeats him easily again. Jugok is undergoing treatment from Bongchim. Jason asks Mujin why he didn't disqualify Jagal Taek, knowing fully well that he'll wreak havoc in the tournament. Mujin says that Jagal may also be the key. Jason asks if that's the only reason. In the next match between South Jola and South Chungcheong, the first win goes to Chungcheong, courtesy of Chaseokwu. Mira analyzes the match. Dawi says that wonders who they will be up against. Mira faces him and says that they'll be up against no one. Because he interfered in the last match, Dawi was suspended. Mira says both of her teammates are idiots. Mori is so busy watching the match that he doesn't even hear. The final bout is between Gwim Gi and Park Ilpio. Mori recognizes a mark on Ilpio. Ilpio asks Gi to give up. He uses his eyes to spread a kind of wind. Someone from the audience says that his other opponents forfeited after that. Gi doesn't shale. Ilpio fights with a skill that the audience recognizes as Taekyon. They are surprised that he can fight with such an antiquated combat style. Gi brings out his Charyeok, but Ilpio dodges all its attacks and emerges as the winner. Mori confirms that the tiger on the back of Ilpio's clothes is the same as his grandfather's military uniform. On the way home, Mira talks about Jagal and Park Ilpio. She says they need to get stronger because the tournament is taking a rough turn. Dawi agrees. He recalls his discussion with Mujin when he asked if just anyone could acquire Charyeok. Mujin says that although some people train so hard to acquire it, they still don't. He says that some, however, obtain it simply by inspiration. Dawi tells Mira and Mori that they still have a chance. Mori says he doesn't want to use Charyeok. He says he wants to be strong by himself, or it wouldn't make sense. He leaves in the middle of the discussion and says he'll see them when it's their time to fight. Mira tells Dawi that something must be wrong with Mori. Dawi says it's probably after he called him out the day before. Mujin asks Mori if he has had any contact with Taejin, because many people are on the lookout for Taejin, just as Mori knows. Mori says he hasn't, and he asks why they are asking him such a question. A picture is displayed before him. Mujin's secretary says that there was a massive explosion at Gangwon 2 days before. She explains that the media has been calling it an attack from the north, but it was actually caused by Charyeok. She explains that after their investigation, they found out that the bloodstains found belonged to Taejin. Mujin adds that Taejin has been missing since then, and judging by the amount of blood, he may not be alive. Mori, however, responded by saying that they don't know his grandpa, because if his grandfather got into a fight, he'd be more worried about the opponent. Mori is by himself, worried about his grandfather when Ilpio shows up. Mori recognizes him, but Ilpio says that he's a huge fan and asks if he can shake Mori. Mori accepts his handshake, but Ilpio goes from there to a battle with Mori. The battle ends with a tie. Ilpio introduces himself and says he couldn't resist having a go at Mori. Mori says it's fine and adds that he has a question. He asks about the symbol on Ilpio's back. Ilpio says it's his respect for Jin Taejin. Mori is taken aback. Ilpio tells his story from when he was a kid, 14 years ago. He says that his first memory is the burial of his father. The second is of his mother walking away, asking him to listen to his uncle. He is left in an unfamiliar place with lots of strangers. He trained, but was told that he was worse than his grandfather, Iltai. In a moment of despair, Jin Taejin showed up and said he was a friend to Ilpio's grandfather, Park Iltai. He gave him a book of Taekyon secrets. Taejin encourages him to grow up and be strong like his grandfather. That's his third precious memory. Ilpio asks after Taejin, but before Mori can answer, someone attacks Mori. It's Jagal Taek. Ilpio stops the attack. Ilpio faces him and says that Jagal Taek may hate him. Ilpio beat him once, but he should leave people who have nothing to do with him out of it. Jagal Taek smiles and walks away. Ilpio tells Mori to beware of Jagal Taek because he's a dangerous man. Mori says Ilpio is dangerous too. He asks about Ilpio's hand. Ilpio says he's fine and leaves. Mori realizes that what he has is not enough. Q rushes into Mujin's office and attacks him, asking what he was doing while he watched them kill Simbongsa. Mujin attacks him and says that he'll pay for the damages he caused to the building. Mujin's secretary P meets with Q later and explains that Mujin's wife and kid are still alive because what Knox killed was a marionette she created. She gives Q a message from Mujin. She says that his punishment has mounted up to 9 months without pay. He calls P, but she says that she won't lend him money. Dawi sees Q taking money on the floor one day. Mori is training hard to become stronger. Dawi asks Q to teach him to obtain Charyeok. He promised to cook dinner for Q every day if he teaches him. Q asks him why he wants to obtain Charyeok and asks if it's because he wants to win Goh. Dawi says that that's part of it, but more importantly, he's tired of losing every time. He wants to measure up to Mori and beat him someday. He also says that something is bothering Mori at that moment, and Mori won't tell him. Dawi thinks it's because he's not dependable enough. Mujin says that Knox will try to ruin Goh. He tells the commissioners that they are free to remove their limiters and attack the Knox at full force. In the Knox, the devotees also declare war with the administrators of Goh because they are trying to obtain a key stronger than the Supreme Being. Mujin says that they must obtain the key through Goh and subdue the Supreme Being. Mira is worried about Mori while training. She thinks about Charyeok. Her bracelet beeps. At Dawi's workplace, his bracelet beeps too. Mori comes in from training and kneels before his picture with his grandfather. He says he needs to get stronger so that his grandfather can come back home. He remembers that his grandfather left him when he turned 6 to prevent bad guys from coming to Mori. It's Mori's birthday. He turned 17. Mira and Dawi come in to celebrate with him. They bring food and cake and have lots of fun with Mori. In the end, Mori thinks he understands what his grandpa meant when he asked him to make friends. Dawi, Mira, and Mori want to fight against each other and also want to win. The three of them laugh. Dawi says that they have to win Goh first. They fist bump, and Dawi says that they should win the next match for him. The next day, someone leaves a letter on Mori's doorstep. He finds a map and a picture of his grandfather, beaten and tied, in the envelope. Taejin tells Mori to stay by himself because he doesn't want the bad people to go after him again. The Knox asks Taejin to follow them, but he says he'll do what he wants. They attack him instead. Mori is riding his bicycle very fast. He thinks about Mira and Dawi and apologizes to them in his mind, saying that he'll make it back in time for the tournament. He needs to save his grandfather first. The official channel of Goh, Big Bang, announces that the tournament has reached the quarterfinal stage. The first battle is between the Seoul and Jeju teams. The Jeju team was previously seeded in a random drawing. It's their first actual battle in the tournament. Everyone wonders what their fighters will be like. Mira and Dawi are looking for Mori. Mira wonders why Mori doesn't have his cell phone with him either. P comes to ask for Mori. They tell her that he's not around. Mira says he probably got into trouble on the way to the arena because he can't resist helping people in need. P says that it doesn't matter. He says that they have to be on the stage by the time the battle starts or they'll lose by default. She also says that if Mori doesn't make it by the second bout, they lose too. She tells them the battle starts in 5 minutes. Mira says she'll get their first win. Dawi says he'll look for Mori and make sure that he doesn't come back without him. Dawi asks Mira not to win so fast this time. She says she'll consider it. Mira is fighting against Lee Marin from the Jeju team. Ilpyo is worried when he doesn't see Mori on the stage. Marin calls Mira the successor of the Moonlight Sword and says that he has been waiting for so long to fight her. Mira is shocked. Marin removes his cloak to reveal his body. The audience chokes and calls it gross. Marin says he was born and raised on the sea and is the marine marvel. Mira sighs and apologizes to Dawi in her heart because she doesn't think she wants to hold out for too long. Mori arrives at the location and locates his grandfather. He sees him on the floor, unconscious. The battle between Mira and Marin is a little fierce. Tanning oil in Marin's body makes Mori's sword slide along his body. Neither of them has the upper hand. At some point, Marin brings out the Moonlight Sword and teases Mira with it. Mira asks him to give back the sword. Marin breaks her wooden sword and says that Mori is unaware of the true power of the Moonlight Sword. Dawi is running, looking for Mori. He sees one of the contestants unconscious in a restroom and runs to him. A strange lady calls Dawi pretty. Marin reveals the true form of the Moonlight Sword. He says it's a weapon that houses the power of supreme beings, the national treasure, Fengxian. He asks how she didn't realize that. He attacks her with the sword, asking with each slash why she didn't know the power that resided in the sword in her grasp. Mira dodges every attack. She attacks him swordless and even manages to get the Moonlight Sword in a grasp, but immediately it vanishes. Marin stands up again and the sword appears in his hand. He explains that it naturally returns to the hands of the one that it recognizes as its owner, as that's the power of the national treasure. He says it's a shame that Mira doesn't wield that kind of power. Mori shakes his grandpa and asks him to get it together. He tries to find something to set his grandfather free. His grandfather turns his head and laughs at Mori. Mori realizes it's not his grandfather. The person explodes and causes an explosion. A man walks in, looks at Mori's body, and says that he takes care of one more small fry team. He says Mori should blame him, because they need to eliminate the small fry teams to accelerate the awakening of the key. He turns and walks away. Mori stands up and asks who he is. He tells Mori to shut up and die. He says doppelganger and multiplies himself in the room. Marin says they had high expectations for Mira, the Moonlight Sword successor. He says they, the Knox, thought she would be the one to grasp the power of the Supreme Beings, but sadly, she has no power. She stabs her with the sword, alarming the crowd. Mira falls to the ground and cries that the sword is hers. Dawi is fighting with the strange lady in the restroom. Dawi questions if she is the lady from South Gyeongsang's team. She doesn't stop attacking Dawi. Dawi stops her and says he doesn't have time to play. He helps the contestant he saw earlier. He asks Dawi to return to their game. The lady kisses Dawi, and Jagal shows up at that time. He warns Dawi and the contestant. He leaves with the lady. Mori is fighting with all the doppelgangers. In the midst of it, he finds the real members of the Jeju team and realizes that they are all dead. Mori asked if he did that. The guy says that now that he knows the truth, he won't let Mori leave alive. Mori activates his pressure points and says that he won't feel pain for the next hour. Marine is beating up Mira on the stage and calling her powerless. He asks her to give up. Mira says she won't give up on the likes of him. Marine says that Mori won't be coming. Mira asks if they did something to him. She fights back again, but Marin strikes her with the sword. Mira goes down and is about to hit rock bottom, but at that moment, she receives power and activates her Charyeok. The sword returns to her. Marin activates his Charyeok too. Mira defeats Marin and wins the bout. She falls, but Mori catches her. She says he's late. The second bout between Mori and Na Hansung is about to start. Dawi tells Mira that he has never seen Mori as angry as he is. Hanseok asks after Paelong. Mori doesn't answer. Hanseok attacks him, and Mori just fights back, beating Hanseok the same way he fought Paelong. He defeats Hanseok. The six say that the tiger raised another tiger. Seongyun asks Ilpyo why he's fighting and why he wants to become stronger. This happened 4 years ago at the martial arts festival. Ilpyo says he's fighting because he promised someone that he'll be stronger and he wants to fulfill that promise. Jagal Taek wins the fight against Seongyun and breaks her leg. She loses the ability to engage in martial arts. Ilpyo is so angry that he beats Jagal and asks him to apologize to Seongyun. Ilpyo is arrested. Ilpyo's teammate asks what's up with him. He says he's thinking about how to win the next match against Seoul because they can't afford to lose. His partner mentions his excitement about fighting with Mori. Ilpyo says that personal matters don't count because he needs to win and make money to fix Seongyun's leg. Mujin meets with the Seoul team and tells them that they didn't fight with the real Jeju team, but it doesn't change the results if they still proceed to the semifinals. Dawi asks who did it and why. Mujin tells them it's Knox. Jagal Taek comes to the warehouse where Paelong is beaten up by Mori. Paelong asks why Jagal didn't come earlier. Jagal says that he didn't join them, but only worked with them for that period to receive intel. He walks away and says to himself that the key will be his. It's time for the Group A semifinals between the Seoul team and the South Jeolla team. The first match is between Han Dawi and Park Seonga. Ilpyo tells Seonga that her first strike determines the match. Truly, Dawi is weakened due to that first strike as Ilpyo predicted. Dawi remembers Mujin's words that the Knox are people who do not tolerate any others apart from theirs. Hence, they are eradicating people who possess such power. He says that they also want to use Taejin's power for themselves. Mori says he'll save his grandpa, but Mujin says that they are weak. He says that if they win GOH, however, he will give them some information. Mori says that they'll win GOH if that's what it takes. The teammates agree. Dawi gets up and dodges Seonga's attack to the surprise of Mori and Mira. Dawi takes down Seonga. Ilpyo asks Seonga to give up since her first strike didn't work. Seonga says Ilpyo should stop worrying because she won't end up like Seongyun. She stands up and resumes the fight, saying that she has decided to fight for herself and she's a martial artist, but Han Dawi still wins the bout. When Dawi steps out, Mira asks for the skill he used. Dawi faces Mori and says that not only should he win, but they should win together. The three hug each other, promising to win together. Ilpyo is worried about Seonga. Seongyun shows up and says that Seonga told her about the tournament and why they are in it. She tells Ilpyo not to worry and fights for himself instead. Ilpyo stands up and says that he's better. He proceeds to the stage. Park Mujin meets with Sang Mandeok. Mujin says he didn't expect Mandeok to show up on his own. Mandeok says he knows that Mujin started the tournament to awaken the sleeping key. He says that Mujin needs a bigger trigger. The commissioners are surrounded by Knox. Mandeok summons the gigantic sword from the sky. The second bout between Ilpyo and Mori starts. Mori thinks it'll be a good fight. Ilpyo says Mori can't beat him. Mujin defends the world from the attack of the sword. Mandeok says Mujin is as strong as ever. The fight begins, but Ilpyo holds the upper hand. Ilpyo brings Mori down first, and Mira and Dawi are surprised. Ilpyo says that Mori's first weakness is that he's bad at close combat. Mori stands up up again and continues to fight, but soon, Ilpio brings him down the second time, and says that his second weakness is that his prep before using techniques is obvious, and it makes him predictable. The announcer says, Ilpio is putting his strength on display. Mori uses his powers but Ilpio defends with equal strength. Ilpio then says that Mori's third weakness is that his techniques place too much strain on his body. He says that Moe can never beat him, no matter how hard he tries. Mondiok opens the doors in the sky and releases the Supreme Being into the earth. He asks the Supreme Being to exact judgment on the earth. Ilpio and Mori keep fighting, but no matter what Mori does, it does not affect Ilpio. Ilpio says Taejin will be disappointed in Mori, wherever he is. He says that Mori is weak and is nothing at all. Mori recalls that Mujin said the same thing. Mori knows he has to think about winning the Ilpio. Mori uses Moonlight Sword style. An old man sitting, Halyang, one of the six, enjoys the view of the sky. He asks if his band is ready because it's time to play some music. With Moonsword style, Mori conquers his first weakness. He copies Dawi's technique and conjures his second weakness. The battle has taken a turn that Ilpio doesn't think is too bad. He asks how Mori will defeat his third weakness. The music begins, and Halyang reveals an armory of weapons. He reveals his presence as one of the six. Ilpio tells Mori that he's trying, but he'll need more than that to get stronger. He asks him to let out all that's within him. Someone in the audience says, it's almost like Ilpio is coaching Mori. The six and the commissioners keep up the attack with the Knox. The fight between Mori and Ilpio goes on simultaneously. Mori recognizes how to combat his third weakness. He brings out Jin Mori Original 3. Halyang uses National Treasure 1, Cleaving Cleanse on the gigantic sword. The band carries the music up to its climax. The strength of the sword is broken, shocking Mondiok. Mujin laughs. Ilpio recalls Taejin asking him for a favor to teach Mori a few things. He promised to. Mori brings Ilpio down. Ilpio says that Taejin has a strong boy, but he can't afford to lose either. Mira sees that his GP is at 1. Ilpio rises. The audience wonders what's happening. Mujin and Mondiok recognize the power. Mondiok says that the key has awakened. In ancient mythical times, a nine-tailed fox with immense power guarded the Supreme Being. He commanded so much power that the Supreme Being feared him and ordered his death. Out of anger, the fox used its power to destroy half of heaven. The fox then descended to earth. Once it exhausted its power, it swore revenge on the Supreme Being and fell into a deep sleep. Mori wonders what has become of Ilpio. Mira says she feels like her body is shaking. Jagal says his Charyeok is resonating. He wonders if Ilpio is the key. Mondiok and Mujin confirm that it's the spirit of the nine-tailed fox that swore revenge on the Supreme Being. Mondiok says he'll make sure it goes to eternal sleep this time. Mujin says he won't let him get his way. The fight between Mori and Ilpio continues. Mori tells himself to go in slowly and find out what powers he has. Ilpio commends Mori for not charging in blindly. However, he beats Mori easily. Mira says Ilpio is strong. Mori tries his new technique again, but this time, it doesn't work. He wonders how he can beat Ilpio. Mori tries to study him. He learns that Charyeok isn't only about fighting with another's power. However, you are still fighting with mind and body, which brings them all to the same level. Mira and Dawi are encouraged to see that Mori hasn't given up yet. Mori and Ilpio launch an attack on each other. Ilpio thinks it's time to finish up the fight. He produces flames of lions and says that Mori is strong, but when the light takes over, Mori defeats the flames of lions in a flash. The sky opens above them in the arena. Everyone wonders what is going on. Ilpio asks Mori what he is. Mori attacks Ilpio with a squeeze of his fist. Ilpio releases a team of 100 demons. Mori takes them down. He sends Ilpio into the sky and brings him down with one smash. Mori wins the bout. Mujin sees that Nine Tails lost. Mondiok asks what kind of energy that was. Mondiok says that they need to be cautious. He flings P, and Mujin runs to catch her. Mondiok leaves. Mujin calls a commissioner and asks them to secure the key. They say that he needs to be treated first. The band and Halyang are drinking and rejoicing at their success. Q tells Mujin that everything seems to be ready and they should be on the move. Mujin says that everyone should remain at the designated location because it seems like Mondiok is still planning something. Ilpio apologizes to his teammates for losing the fight. He says he wasn't strong enough, but they dismiss those words and say that he tried his best. They asked if what they used during the fight was Charyeok, and he said it most likely was. Seonga asks if he kept his promise, and he said that he did to an extent, although the promise he made cannot be kept right away. Mori comes into the ward where Ilpio is and throws a can of drink at him. Ilpio catches it, and the rest of the teammates see Mori. Mori asks about how Ilpio feels, and he says he's just fine. Mori says he's doing a lot better than him. Ilpio says he's out doing what the nurses told him, because, in actual fact, he's a lot healthier than Mori. The two of them go back and forth arguing about who is healthier. The other guy in the team asks Mori if what he used during the fight was Charyeok. Mori says he isn't sure. The guy says that's what Ilpio said too. Seonga shouts at them, saying they won't get better if they keep up with that attitude. Mori and Ilpio bow and apologize. Mori says, Seonga, is as scary as Mira. Seunga heard. Ilpyo says that Seunga is right, and Mori needs to rest too because he used a lot of power. Mori says he'll get going. Ilpyo tells him to wait first. Seunga asks his teammates to get something that goes with the coffee Mori brought earlier. The two of them leave. Mori tells Ilpyo about his grandfather. He says he wants to win to get information about his grandfather. Ilpyo says his opponent in the finals, Jagal Taek, is tough, but if anyone can beat him, it's Mori. Ilpyo asks Mori to call him Big Brother. Mori says he wants to fight with him again after GOH. Ilpyo agrees. Jugok leaves his ward, half human, half beast. He attacks Jagal Taek, who fights with large wooden pins. He pierces Jogok with 4 of them, but Jugok keeps attacking Jagal with lightning. Jugok's maid comes at that time, and Jagal uses the pins in Jugok to kill her. Jugok makes the maid his strength. Jugok and Jagal fall into Ilpyo's ward. Mujin sees all that is happening from the administrative room. Ilpyo watches Jugok absorb people into himself. He's worried about his teammates, but Jagal tells him to get away from his prey. Jagal makes Jugok release all the people he absorbed into himself earlier, including his maid. Jugok catches Seunga and Hyunbok and tries to absorb them. Jugok's maid tries to calm him down. He hears her voice and stops being a beast for a while. Jagal catches Jugok using his Charyeok. Ilpyo's teammates are safe, but Hyunbok loses his arm, and Seunga loses her leg. Mandeok opens the door of the skies again. He tells the Supreme Being that the key is before him, and that the time of purging has come. Ilpyo is angry. He says he'll kill Jagal. Jagal says, it's just like before, but this time, he's not the same person. Ilpyo jumps at Jagal, and they fall out of the building. Mujin says that GOH is over at that moment. Mandeok says that their Supreme Being who was, is, and is to come, their omnipotent Supreme Being, and King shall descend at last. Mandeok says now is the beginning and the end. Jugok's grandfather stares at Jugok's maid crying over Jugok's body. He says he'll avenge Jugok's death, even if it costs his life. He walks away. Taek's mother abandoned him when he was younger. His mother sold him off to an old man for money. The old man says he doesn't care for blood relations, but only for individual abilities. He tells Taek that he possesses everything he needs in an heir. He tells Taek that people like his mother are losers. He says Taek must remember that. Taek recalls when Ilpyo beat him. The old man told him that the defeated seek a reason for their defeat, but winners don't do such because they have faith in their victory from the beginning, and they make it happen. Taek says he knows, and he won't be a loser, because the one who will inherit everything his grandfather has is him. The battle between Ilpyo and Taek intensifies as they are both using their Charyeoks. Ilpyo recalls the situation of his teammates, and he expends all his energy into the fight. Taek looks at Ilpyo and says that they are the same because, in the end, he's an animal too. Treatment is ongoing for Hyunbok and Seunga. Seongyun comes and sees the state of her friends. She asks what's going on. Seunga wants to talk, but she finds it difficult. The commissioners are fighting off the beasts and beings that Mandeok released from the skies. Q and O are having fun. O sees the Supreme Being in the sky. Mujin tries to defend the world again. Mandeok says he has come late again. Mijin tells Mandeok that if he comes in contact with the key at that moment, not a shred of the world will remain. Mandeok says that that's what they want. Mori, Mira, and Dawi run outside to get a better view of the situation. Mira asks what's going on. She asks if it's someone's Charyeok. Mori sees the fight between Ilpyo and Taek. Taek is currently at a disadvantage, and a replay of what happened that day is going on again. Taek remembers the words of his father, and says that he won't be a loser. He brings up his Charyeok behind Ilpyo. Mori shouts Ilpyo's name, but Taek's Charyeok shallows him when the two of them burst out. Something comes out with them. Mujin sees it, and says that the key has awakened. Taek tries to make the key his, but one of the beings from the skies catches it before him. The six fights with the beings, but the key still lands in Mandeok's hands. Mori hits Mandeok, and takes the key from him. He looks at it, and wonders if that's what everyone is after. The security service says that they'll call off their alliance with Park Mujin. They said that with mankind's science, the power of a supreme being is nothing. Their leader is determined to show how meaningless the power tussle is. He says that's their mission as guardians of the world. As if on cue, the US launches nuclear missiles on the country. Mujin needs the key to do what he thinks will solve the problem. Mujin makes all the kids disappear. He says he needs them to play inside until he clears up the situation. Mori looks for Mira and Ilpyo in the place where they get sent. Yeonbok and Seunga explain the story to Mira. They ask if Ilpyo will be fine, but Mira says she doesn't know. She looks around and says that it seems all of them were sent to that place. Seunga begs Mira to save Ilpyo, and she faints. Dawi uses his Charyeok to keep Seunga and Hyunbok within a water space that possesses healing powers. Mira asks Dawi if that's his Charyeok, and Dawi says he planned to keep it a secret until he fully mastered it. Dawi says that need to find Mori and others and get out of there fast. Mira agrees. Dawi says that if all of them were sent there, then Taek was probably there too. Mori finds Ilpyo and Seongyeon. He stops Ilpyo's bleeding and asks Seongyeon if Taek is responsible for what happened to everyone. Seongyeon says that Taek is dangerous. She says Ilpyo always had his eyes on Taek and Mori. Mori is taken aback. Seongyeon says Ilpyo wanted Mori to be strong enough to beat Taek. Mori recalls Ilpyo's enthusiasm, teaching him during their battle. Ilpyo wakes up and tells Seongyeon she promised to keep the secret. Mori and Seongyeon guide Ilpyo up. Ilpyo asks for the key, and Mori shows it to him. Ilpyo says he doesn't know what it is, and he doesn't understand why it was inside him either. He says that, however, he sensed incredible power from it, and he wants Mori to have it. Ilpyo tells Mori to never let Taek have it, because if he lays his hands on such tremendous power, terrible things will happen. The breaking news announces the missiles, and the fact that they'll reach Seoul in about 40 minutes. Everyone is looking for where to hide. The commissioners and beings are still fighting. Taek appears to Mira and Dawi and asks for the key. They say that they don't know what he's talking about. He asks again, and when they don't respond, he decides that they should die. Dawi and Mira unleash their Charyeoks. Mori finds Dawi and Mira unconscious. Taek is there, waiting for him. Taek asks for the key. Dawi asks Mori to run, because Taek is out of his mind. Mori asks Taek why he's found whatever he's doing. He says it's because he's the winner, and others are losers. Mujin and Halyang are unable to hold back the Supreme Being. Someone causes the people of the earth to disappear. Mori and Taek are engaged in a battle. Taek keeps asking Mori to give him the key. The people of Seoul are gathered together. I'm one place. They teleported. Bongchim says the only person capable of that deed is Jae-san. Mandok commends Jae-san's skill. Jae-san creates a weapon that can pierce the Supreme Being. He says he'll avenge his grandson. Everyone disappears again, including Mori and Taek, who are fighting. Mori wonders where he is again. Taek catches Mori and takes the key from him. He feeds the key into his body and grows into another being. Taek says that all the losers will die. P says that the Supreme Being that appeared over the arena has been shut down by Jae-san. Mujin asks if there is any response from Jae-san. P says they have none from Jae-san and Mandeok. Halyang says that only the kids who were sent to the Holy Realm are left. Taek says his mission is to consume all and return to nothingness. Dawi marvels at the power of the key. Mori spaces out, staying at what Taek has become. Mira says that they should run away and look for the others because they must have reached their limit at that moment, but Taek doesn't let her finish. He punches her, and she begins to fight him back. Dawi and Mori too, but Taek dodges their attacks effortlessly. Taek says that anyone who defies a Supreme Being will face death. He tells Mori to give up his fight. Mori says that he'll punish Taek for all his deeds. He says he'll make him apologize to everyone. Mori jumps down and begins to activate all his acupuncture points, remembering Bongchim's instructions. Mori says he has gone past his limit. He runs towards Taek again, but Taek is too powerful. Mira protects Mori from Taek's attack. Taek says that they should expect their death to be painless. He throws a red arrow at them, but Dawi blocks it with his body and asks his friends to run. The subjects call their king and say that the preparations for the attack are now complete. They ask him to give the order. The king says that there is no need for them to go anywhere. He asks Nyoibo to grow. Dawi falls due to the impact of the arrow that shatters. Mori walks up to the Nyoibo that grows out of the ground. Mandok can't believe what is happening. Mori tears off his headband, and light shines through his head. Mandok says that Mori is Satan Taisei. Bongchim smirks and asks who Taejin has raised as a grandson. Taek wonders what type of power Mori possesses. Mira and Dawi are shocked at what their friend has become. Mori asks Nyoibo to shrink, and he takes the staff in his hands. Taek is eager to fight with Mori. Mori defeats 1,000,000 demons of Taek's Charyeok. However, Taek is still strong. The battle goes on with fierce closeness between the two. At some point, Taek seizes Mori by the neck and says that all powers are below him, and his nothingness will consume them, along with Mori. But Mori says that he'll make Taek pay. Nyoibo grows like Mori commands, taking Taek off him. Mori punches him in the face and says, "That's for Dawi." He gives him more punches for Mira. He continues to punch Taek for each of the others until Taek can no longer stand up. Taek struggles up and says that he's not a loser and tries to fight back. Mori calls lightning to fall on Taek. The entire Seoul is shocked about what is going on in front of them. P gasps, and Mujin explains that unlike all of them, Mori's power is not borrowed. Mori is a supreme being in the flesh. Taek falls to his knees, defeated. The devotees tell Mandeok that they should disappear then, while they can. They vanish. Mira and Dawi rush to Mori and ask if he's Mori. He fidgets, and when they catch him, he says he's hungry. Mira and Dawi frown as they nod heads in confirmation that he's still Mori. Mori says that his memory is still messed up. He doesn't know what happened, but he also thinks he does. Taek gets up again and reforms into another monster, asking Mori to give him his kind of power. Mori tries to summon Nyoibo and Kintuan, but nothing responds to him. Mira and Dawi fight against this new monster. Mori tries to pull off the relic that replaced his headband, but he can't. Ilpyo suddenly holds him and tells him to rely on his friends a little. Mori says Ilpyo is an idiot and he shouldn't be moving just yet. Mira and Dawi join both of them and say that they are all idiots and that the only end to the idiocy is death. The four of them link arms and proceed to fight Taek together. They combine their powers and Charyeok's. They defeat Taek, and the sky becomes clear again. Taek remembers his mother and reaches out with his hand. Ilpyo holds him, but he knocks off Ilpyo and allows himself to be eaten by the monster of himself. He vanishes into thin air and releases fragments of the key. Mori is happy that it's over. The girl in Taek's group is walking alone in a cave. She sees the 6 card and stands before a gigantic door. Songyeon and Songa check on Ilpyo, asking if he's okay. Ilpyo says he's totally fine. Yeonbuk thanks Dawi for saving them. Dawi says that all he did was a little first aid. Someone brings the girl from Taek's group back into Seoul from the Holy Realm. She's angry with Park Mujin for sending such a person to the realm, which is now destroyed. The lady greets Mori weirdly. Mori and the others wonder why she's doing that. She says that it seems the purpose of GOH has been accomplished, and the last one standing is Mori's team. She introduces herself as Kim Eunyo, the progenitor of the human race and a member of the 6. Everyone wonders what the 6 are. Dawi thinks the name is lame. Mira asks if it's some form of idol group. She explains to them that she's the strongest and most important person in the tournament, and she's there to grant them one wish. Mori walks forward immediately and asks her to bring his grandfather, but he stops himself and looks back at everyone else. Mira says she doesn't have a wish because she has decided to revive the sword herself. Dawi says he doesn't have any wish either. Mori wishes that everyone who was hurt in the battle is fixed and made the way they were before. She fixes everyone and restores their hands and legs, but she shrinks and says it's because someone woke her 2 weeks before her time. She tells Mori that Jin Taejin is alive. She senses his presence although it's weak. Mori faints after hearing the news. Eunyo says it's because he exhausted his strength so he fell asleep. Bongchim buries Jason. Halyang asks Bongchim if he has settled his feelings since he cried for 3 days after Eunyo rejected him. The two fight. Mujin says they should seize the presidential seat next. Mori wakes up after 3 months. Mira and Dawi bring him some food. As the guardian of the key, Ilpyo was asked to go around the world to gather its fragments. Dawi tells Mori that he has to go to Sensei Taisei's homeland to unlock his memories. They think it's fun and decide they'll go together and get stronger too. Mori promises to come back for his grandpa.